it's kind of crazy how the media can skew you to one perspective and take so much out of context to create this divisiveness. And I think that's exactly what's happening. Why can't the media just come out and say, like, this is what happened? Okay, check this out. I have to get my reporting from a bunch of influencers now. And when I watch it, I'm looking at actual video footage. And none of the media outlets are picking that up. And for me, my question is to you, is when you see stuff like this happen, because you've been involved in politics for long. You've seen this game. This is probably not your first rodeo to witness how the mainstream media can control a narrative against you or for you. And when you look at something like this, to questions we should have answered, what goes through your mind thinking, okay, why aren't they giving us this? Why aren't they answering these questions? Why don't we have the cell phone information? I mean, what could possibly be why they're not giving us this information? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at. Thank you so much for tuning into The Passionate Podcast. I am Casey Kale. I am your host. And man, wow, what a crazy past couple of weeks it has been. It's been, I don't know, there's not really too many words for it. So I kind of want to dive right in with today's guest because I'm just so excited. One of the very, 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 very really good men that has been in politics for quite some time in our local community. And I'm really excited to actually have a really good conversation with him and just to share some of the great things that he's done for our community and the things that he's going to do for our community as we need so bad. So today, man, Nathan Magsig, welcome to the Passionate Podcast, brother. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm so excited, man, honestly. There's lots to talk about, obviously, especially in today's world with all the craziness, but just thank you so much for coming on here. It's hard to kind of sometimes get someone to come on that's willing to speak, right, with their beliefs and their values and the morals, man. And there's not very many people that I know that have actually walked that out. Let's talk about, real quick, just kind of as an introduction to some people that may not know you, right, to how long you've been in politics. You were on Clovis Council for 15, 16, how long?
About 16 years. So I've been in politics since Moses parted the Red Sea. No,
that's not our age, man.
So I got involved actually working in the state legislature in the late 90s, and even a little bit before that.
That's right.
I got to work on a couple of assembly campaigns, and when I was about 16 years old, I really felt led to get involved in government and politics, and I feel blessed because God opened doors for me at a very young age. And so I dove in head first, and I'm one who believes that everybody is born with different gifts. Yeah. And I thoroughly enjoy people, and I love leadership. And when I looked at what politics could do and what many elected officials could do, I really felt passionate about getting involved in that sector.
Yeah, is that what kind of like inspired you to get into politics at such a young age? 16 years old, and you already knew the direction, right? What kind of went through your head in that moment to be like, okay, I want to make a difference, right? Because you're smiling right now. And so obviously you remember this moment exactly.
Yeah, so what I remember is, so in high school, what I saw happening is really our country was going through many different challenges at the time. And also, too, I don't know if many of your viewers remember this, but in the 80s and even into the 90s, here locally in the Fresno Clovis area, there was Operation Rezone that was taking place.
Yep, I do remember that.
So at the national level, you had elected officials that were having affairs on their wife. They were, taking money. At the local level, you had people selling their votes, and it really bothered me. And I'm, again, one who believes that everyone is born with different gifts. I come from a line of pastors. My great-grandfather was a Nazarene pastor. My grandfather was a pastor. My dad was a Quaker pastor. And so I didn't feel led to move in the direction of becoming a pastor of a church, but I really saw a need to get involved in the political arena. And so I didn't know how to do that, but that's where my heart was.
Well, it sounds to me like you at least led from a place of faith. Right, because you were looking into being a pastor and speaking life into people, right? I think essentially that's what our politicians should do and should be doing, is speaking life into people and edifying the lives of our community and those around us. And I do see you doing that as one of few people in this community, so I thank you for that. I'm actually really happy to know that it comes from a place of faith. And I really think that is what our country is lacking right now, our state, our community. I mean, it's kind of scary to kind of see what has transpired in the past few weeks. Obviously, speaking of major political events and things happening and being, kind of misconstrued, our president, Donald, not our current president, but Donald Trump, right? The assassination attempt. Honestly, I don't know how you feel about it, but that's what really kind of ignited my fire to really kind of take a turn and be like, okay, I got to put a line in the sand, because I've always been one that's been scared, right? For the past 4 years, I don't want to talk about, I'm not getting the vaccine. I'm not putting that in my body, because I know what vaccines did to my son, my special needs son, 4-year-old with autism, right? I know what kind of happens there, and I didn't want to say, oh, I don't want to get that vaccine. I don't want to put that in my body. And I was scared to say stuff like that, right? I was so scared to put my feelings and emotions out there, right? And my opinions, because of being subjected to hate, criticism, just because this is the way that I feel and want to protect my family. That's kind of crazy how that kind of inspired you, and now you're kind of coming full circle. Let's talk about that real quick. What went through your mind and your heart when you saw our former president, Donald Trump, almost get assassinated, and we've got no answers? They just came out with new footage today of them showcasing the building and police securing the building, walking around the building, securing it 3 to 5 minutes before the shots even fired. They knew he was up there. What's going through your head, man?
So first of all, when I saw the video, I was shocked at what I was watching. And really, it is a miracle that Donald Trump
Complete miracle.
Was not struck by one of those bullets. And I've seen different accounts. I think there was roughly 8 shots that were fired by the gunman. But that first shot and how Donald Trump had turned his
Just
head.
Like that.
And the fact that bullet nicked his ear, how close that was, again, it's a miracle that former President Trump was not hurt worse than he actually was. Now, I am troubled by that assassination attempt because I think, number one, I think that the media has a double standard.
Oh, come on. Nothing. Come on. Listen, I'm going to say what it is, because I'm watching a whole different story unfold.
Yep.
And that's what's really waking me up to understand how much of a machine this beast really is. When I actually looked, and I pulled this statistic up, how many people actually donated to Biden's campaign, to Trump's campaign. We're talking Alphabet Group, like Google, all multimedia, Amazon, all the big multimedia companies, and then you've got the United States Postal Service, United States Army for donating to Trump. Like, it's a significant difference, and I really, really feel like the media is controlling a massive narrative that's not really truthful to all of us.
So, again, watching all that unfold, I was disappointed in the coverage. Number one, that particular event, it should still be headline news today.
Thank you.
That event took place 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, but it is so significant. To me, there should be information about it coming out continuously.
Thank you.
I look at other events that took place. January 6th, when Donald Trump, of course, the whole process when Congress was going to be voting and the certification of who the next president was going to be, and the media continued to talk about that and still continues to talk about that to this day. Congress at one point, when the Democrats controlled the House of Representatives, convened hearings and just really drug that whole incident out. And I don't want to take away from the significance of that incident. But here, just 2.5 weeks ago, we had an individual who we are being led to believe was just a layperson, 20-year-old kid who actually took his father's gun and was able to get through the police, get through the Secret Service, be in a position within 150 yards of Donald Trump, and to be able to take 8 shots. There were a lot of things that absolutely went wrong, and I think that our government, I think our media needs to be absolutely clear as they go through this process and we find new facts and details about who the shooter was, what connections he had, was there anyone else involved? And unfortunately, there is not a whole lot of effort that I've seen so far to put out accurate information from all the major networks.
There's been no effort, and in fact, this is the part that makes me so sick. Is from these media outlets, you're getting suggested media trying to suggest that possibly Donald Trump wasn't even shot, that it was staged by him. And I just can't believe the audacity that some of the people have by putting this information out there. It is crazy to me. And then to where it's like, okay, we got confirmation by the FBI that it was in fact a bullet wound to his ear. And we're supposed to believe that a 20-year-old kid that was up on the roof, right? I mean, there's lots of other speculations that could or what may have transpired, or if he had a transmitter, he had a cell phone. We can't get into any of that. Why can't we get into that? We have the greatest technology in the world. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to know what happened and who he was talking to. The police, they saw him. He even had a police officer go up and confront him. Now, in my opinion, I'm not a former military. I'm not a sniper. I don't know how this works. But if I'm a sniper looking at this kid that they already know, it's factually known. They know that he was up on this roof with a rifle. They see this, they see him, they're watching him, right? Just watching him. Then now the police are securing the building before the shots are even rung out. He's up there. They're securing the building. An officer goes up. He gets confronted. He gets a gun pointed at him. At that point, why wasn't the suspect eliminated right then and there? There's so much more to this story that's not being told, and I think that is the biggest problem with our media these days, is that it's guided to one way. I mean, just today, literally, Elon Musk had to tweet out about how Google there wasn't even you Google Donald Trump, you get a bunch of Kamala Harris articles, nothing about Trump. You Google Kamala Harris, it's all Kamala Harris, right? It's kind of crazy how the media can skew you to one perspective and take so much out of context to create this divisiveness. And I think that's exactly what's happening. Why can't the media just come out and say, like, this is what happened? Okay, check this out. I have to get my reporting from a bunch of influencers now. And when I watch it, I'm looking at actual video footage. And none of the media outlets are picking that up. And for me, my question is to you, is when you see stuff like this happen, because you've been involved in politics for long. You've seen this game. This is probably not your first rodeo to witness how the mainstream media can control a narrative against you or for you. And when you look at something like this, to questions we should have answered, what goes through your mind thinking, okay, why aren't they giving us this? Why aren't they answering these questions? Why don't we have the cell phone information? I mean, what could possibly be why they're not giving us this information?
One thing that's interesting in the 25 plus years that I've been involved in politics and as an elected official, I have seen many things change. I know in the late 90s, people had much more faith in government at all levels of government, and there's continued to be a shift, and now there's a significant divide. You have people on the left, you have people on the right, and a lot of tension. So I read a book by Eric Metaxas, and it's called If You Can Keep It. And it really is, it talks about our liberties and our freedoms and things that are foundational really to help preserve this great country that we have, and the amazing, the freedoms that we have, which we really don't appreciate. We take them for granted. And to answer your question about what's changing, I think that we are changing as people. You go back 100 years ago when the life expectancy was much less, and looking at the standard of living that we have today, we have the best standard of living compared to any other country. We're like right at the top. There might be a few other countries that might be a little bit higher than us, but most people don't go hungry for the most part. Most people have shelter. There are people who don't. If you look at access to health care, most people have access to health care. Again, you go back 100 years, people died 30 years earlier. And yet, if you look at where we are at today, it's almost like we've lost our true north. And
Yes.
what is our true north? This country was founded on religious principles.
Oh man, here we go.
And what people have forgotten is a lot of that liberty and freedom was founded in the Bible. And people want to push the Bible aside. People want to take God out of this country, and they want to replace it with humanistic things, with selfish things. And when you do that, you end up with what we have today. Yeah. The Olympics, a couple days ago, 2 days ago,
read my mind,
during the Olympics, people were outraged by how the Last Supper was mocked by individuals who were in drag and everything else, and people were in an uproar. But I looked at that, and yes, as a Christian, I'm offended by that. But to me, that is a symptom of a much greater problem that is taking place in the world. That's exactly where I was going with it. And how do we fix all of this? Well, I can tell you, it starts with me. Yeah. It starts with you. It starts with your audience. We have to really have a gut check and ask ourselves, what is important to us? What is our true north? And if our life is not founded on things that truly are virtuous, in my case, it's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who time and time again has shown me that I am not worthy, and He has opened doors for me. He has blessed me. He has given me peace at times. If we don't spend time realigning ourselves with that true north, we end up with chaos, and we've got a lot of chaos right now.
We have a lot of chaos, and man, amen to everything that you just said. And I think that's a big problem with our country today, is they're taking religion and faith right out of that. And I think people are starting to see that, and I think that's starting to make some people pretty angry and upset that they can see right through what's happening. And to go back to the Olympics, I mean, I couldn't believe that they made such a mockery out of it. But the thing that got me the most was I was upset. Because this is other countries mocking our country right now, because of our leadership, because of who's in charge. This is what drives me crazy, is the whole Kamala and Trump debate. Like it's not even close. And what's crazy is we've had Kamala for the past 4 years. We have had the worst 4 years of my life. And my decision is for my family and for who I need to provide for. And at the end of the day, what I can't understand is how anyone would want anyone out of this current administration. We have the economy is in trenches. The markets are horrific. We've got inflation at an all-time high. We've got immigration. I can't even believe some of the things that I saw. We have the American flag being burned in the capital of our country. It made me want to stand up and finally speak up. Let me tell you something. Vivek said this beautifully: courage is contagious. And I think when people see people stand up in faith, and they see them stand up in praise and in Jesus' name, and know that, hey, everything is going to be okay, because we just saw an angel come and swipe Trump's head and save him by the grace of God to wake us all up. I really think there's a bigger message here, that we need to put faith and religion back into our country, back into our academics, back into our schools, back into our sports, which I'm seeing more and more and more of, and I'm so thankful to see it. But I do think it takes people like yourself that aren't afraid, that are willing to come on podcasts like this and come speak your mind and come speak your values, because I really do think America wants that, but they're scared of what they're subjected to when they voice it. Right? Social media has now become the stomping grounds for anyone that wants to say, oh, you feel this way about Trump? Well, then you're a scumbag, you're a piece of S, you're this, you're that. Why are we doing that? As a conservative, I see someone that wants to vote for Kamala. I ask simply why. Why would you want to vote for Kamala? I don't know how you could want that after the past 4 years. That's all I need to know. The past 4 years have been atrocious, and she's been a part of this administration. What do people think is actually going to change? So here we got, one of the legends of here in our Fresno County. What do you really think needs change in our government? Is it just faith? Is it just religion? Right? There's so much more. And what about this current administration is going to help us? So as the mainstream media tells us, like, oh, Kamala's the best thing ever. She's this and that. But all they've constantly done is lie. I'm sure you've seen it on social media. It's been nothing but lies, and they get caught in their lies, and then they replay it. That scares the crap out of me, man.
So how do we fix all this? And really, it starts with you and me and your audience, and we need to be involved, and we really have to find out what our true north is and get that right. But something you asked earlier was, what have I seen change in the last 25 years or so since I've been involved in office? And one thing which really troubles me a little bit is, it used to be that Democrats were the ones that wanted more government. Yeah. Now I'm seeing even Republicans who want government to get involved to stop different groups. So what do I think we need more of? I'll tell you that we don't need more government. I would actually like to see government shrink a little bit. I think our federal government is way too bloated. Yep. It's gotten way too large. It's involved in education. It's involved in providing grants at the local level. And that basically is our tax dollars that we send up that we end up having brought back to us. Correct. I believe very much in local control. And
I do too.
A lot of people are so reliant on the government. They feel that if government shrinks, that they're going to miss out somehow. But really, government, as it gets larger, it constrains freedom. It constrains entrepreneurs. It constrains a better standard of living. And right now, we're watching the middle class really being squeezed out. And I almost feel like what we're witnessing right now is the movie Elysium. And I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, with Matt Damon, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
that is so interesting you say
you
that.
had the poor and you had the rich.
The rich, the elites.
And many times things that I see happening, it's almost like movies that are completely fiction are becoming reality. And it blows my mind. So to me, I do believe when Ronald Reagan said that, government is not the answer, it's the problem. Yeah. We do need to shrink government. Government is necessary, but at the level it's at right now, how large it is, how it's involved in every aspect of our life, that is a problem.
I agree.
Things that have happened, the reason government has grown so much is a lot of our institutions, our service clubs, our churches that used to be involved in helping the poor have shrunk back for some reason. And so government has chosen to rush into these areas. And if you take a look at the track record of success, it's not there. I look at the Fresno Rescue Mission, which we have right here in Fresno County, that works with homeless populations and works with people with addictions. And if you look at their success rate, it's very high. But yes, if you get involved with many of their programs, it's a faith-based organization. They talk about Jesus, they teach out of the Bible, but the success rate is high. Our government right now doesn't want to get involved with a lot of faith-based groups because it's faith-based.
Faith-based.
And what's crazy right now to me is government's trying to push the Christian religion aside. But when you take a look at things like climate change, you take a look at the agenda when it comes to homelessness and how the state wants to treat homelessness, that is a religion. It is again, climate change and greenhouse gas emissions and what's happening to the planet. This is all part of humanism. So they're pushing God aside and they're trying to take selfish ideas and things that haven't been proven and they're trying to implement that as policy. And we're reaping the benefits of that, which is more chaos.
Yeah. That's really interesting you say that, and taking it down to a local level too. I mean, when you're trying to take faith and religion out of our school systems, I got to tell you, I have a men's group here every Tuesday at 6 a.m. at my building, and it's a really good group of like entrepreneurs, business owners, professional athletes. I mean, it's a really solid group, and we just sit here, we pray. We held, just talk accountability with each other, talk God, talk scripture, and definitely a lot of politics are involved lately because it's based around, there's a lot of faith that's being pulled, and we're feeling like we want to step up and make a difference. But what I'm saying is that the education system is starting to scare me, and you're starting to see a lot of agendas, not actual education being pushed into our school systems now, whether they're trying to put sex education and the transgenderism stuff inside of our elementary schools, that's still to be determined. But my point is it's going a completely different direction. And as far as I've seen, right now Fresno is I think we're at the bottom five in educational, like in the whole county, but in the whole state, we're bottom five in education, and we have a very big educational system in Clovis and Fresno. How do we change that? I mean, we have so many people in power that are doing nothing when it comes to our education systems, but letting other ideologies and other agendas be pushed into our systems, and it's pushing a lot of teachers out. It's making teachers not want to even teach anymore, and so there we got teachers that aren't actually being the best models that they can be for our kids, and then you've got these, oh my God, then you got these, we'll stay on that for a minute. Let's just back to education. How do we fix our education system for our youth? Like, honestly.
So, honestly, the person who's most responsible for children's education are the parents.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
And a lot of parents have forgotten that, and they're pushing kids off on schools to teach their kids first. And when their kids are failing, they're like, what's going on? It's the teacher's fault. No, it's mom and dad's fault. And sometimes I look at here in Fresno County, we've got about 2,400 kids that are in the foster system. Yep. And it breaks my heart because a lot of those kids have been abandoned. Yep. They don't have a stable family environment. But there are so many kids who have loving parents who don't know how to be teachers as well to their kids. So how do we fix the problem? I'll tell you, money is not the problem. If you look at how much money is given to the K through 12 education here in the state of California.
$6.1 million a month per per kid, and they've given for after school programs now. And if they don't use it, they lose it.
It's statewide.
So much money,
tens of billions.
So
over
much,
$100 billion goes to just K through K through 12 education. So how do we fix this? And I'll tell you, in Fresno County, there are about 32 different school districts. Some are very small, and sometimes everyone here is Fresno Unified, Clovis Unified, Central, Sanger. But again, you've got many other districts out there, 26 other districts. I've got Big Creek School District, which has just a few dozen kids in it, but it serves the residents and the students up in Big Creek. So we need more parents to be involved with kids. And something else, too, is we need to be teaching kids about authority and how you need to respect authority.
Totally agree.
And things have really flipped on its head. When I was a kid, if a teacher were to ever call my dad, my dad would say, and spanking used to be involved when I was a kid.
Sure.
And my dad would be like, you better fear when you get home.
Yeah.
And so I had a healthy fear for my coaches, my teachers, and I never wanted to disrespect because I feared the punishment I would get at home. Today, if a teacher calls home, sometimes what you end up with is that parent now confronting the teacher, getting in their face, and there are not enough teachers that are being supported by parents. So again, education, if you want better education, it starts with the family first, and parents need to be more involved with their kids.
I so agree.
There are many different private schools that are starting to pop up, but I don't want to throw all school districts under the bus. I'm a product of Clovis Unified Schools, and I think Clovis Unified has grown significantly. When I was going to school, it just was Clovis High, Clovis West, and then Buchanan got built, and now they're working, I think, on their 5th or 6th campus school, Clovis South, the Bradley Center, and so it's grown so much, and they work so hard. But I'll tell you, the school board members, Clovis Unified, I know all of them. I think they're very passionate. They're very conservative. They're very much in tune and try to do what's best for families. But they're challenged by state laws that are coming from the legislature. So people people ask, what can we do to change that? Well, you need to change the legislature. And it gets back to this. Our legislature in Sacramento is a reflection of us.
Oh, man.
And so we really... bottom line, to fix a lot of these problems, it starts with me first. And we need to figure out how we need to get in alignment better with, following true north. What is virtuous? And I feel like this country has become lazy in a way. The freedoms that we have and how valuable and fragile they are, these are things that need to be protected. There are... our history needs to be taught, and it's not a perfect history, but when I see an agenda and schools teaching things which never really happened, it blows me away. Yeah. And when I see teachers teach that you need to be ashamed of your country, these are things which I'm left questioning.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that is probably one of the biggest problems in our country right now, is somehow, some way, I don't know who, but they have been stripping the pride of America for the past 4 years. And when I look at America, I look at the Olympics mocking our country. I look at the protests that we can compare to January 6th. We can compare to all kinds of different things. People are literally burning American flags in our Capitol. And I got to tell you, I'm so glad that you're on here, because I kind of want to talk about that, right? About protests, because you've experienced on the first hand someone showing up to your house unannounced when you weren't even home, right? This is back in 2023, last year.
Just last year, yeah.
Right? And that to me is exactly what I see happening in our country. If people don't get their way, they go and try to use intimidation, fear tactics, and in your face. I mean, explain to me. Tell me how you felt in that moment when your wife, probably after she called the cops, probably, I would assume, you were probably the second phone call, because she's fearing for her life. She got people showing up to her house, which is just so inappropriate. And she calls you and says, "Babe, there's people in front of our house. They're banging on the door. They're blocking my car. I can't get out. What do I do?" I mean, what goes through your head in that moment?
Yeah. So first of all, I was very furious because I didn't know what was going on. My wife called me. She said, "I tried to leave. I couldn't leave. They're blocking me from leaving." And so I told my wife. I said, "Stay inside." The cops were on their way. The cops did come out. those particular protesters left. I think there was one that maybe stayed behind, and I don't know if they gave a statement to the police. I have no idea. I forget what that individual did. But I was frustrated because I have no problem with people coming and wanting to protest me in the public square. There's a time and a place for that. But when you involve my family and when you make my wife fearful, I've got a true problem with that. So again, if people want to come and protest me, I've got no problem with that. That is your right to say, to say whatever you want in the public square. But I do draw the line when it comes to people's homes, and we have seen more and more of this taking place, where whether an elected official will be at a restaurant or people coming to people's homes and there being a confrontation. And it gets back to this divide that we're in right now. And people have lost the ability to really differentiate fiction from reality, and remembering
logic.
Look, if we want to communicate points, do that, with your mouth and not with your fists in some cases, or using other tools of destruction. And it bothers me. It troubles me. But
it bothers me too. I really genuinely feel like the media puts out this narrative that if you have family values and you want to make a decision to support a Republican or a conservative candidate in anywhere, you become chastised to this type of hate, this type of journalism that will try to cancel you. This newfound media that says, oh, it's bad to do this. You can't be that. You can't possibly vote for this guy. He's this, and this, and takes it way out of context to make you think so badly about a single person. When did politics start getting like this and getting so nasty? Whereas I don't see that from my side. I see you being logical. I see you being compassionate. I see you having empathy and actually really wanting to work on the problems that need to be worked on. And then I see the other side, and they throw hate. They spew these words that have no backing behind them, that have no actual fact, but they've listened to this mainstream media that gives them this tidbit of information, and so they blurt it so vigilantly that it makes people scared to speak out, and I think that's a big problem.
So one thing that we need to do more of is sitting down and having conversations like this, but not just with people who we agree with, but people who we really don't.
Yes.
And I love debates. I love raw debates, not where there's yelling and people yelling over others, but just an exchange of information where sometimes you have a winner, sometimes it's a draw.
It's a draw.
But you get to see how people think. And what I find is when you have true healthy debates and information being put out there publicly, sometimes both sides, or depending on how many people are at the debate, sometimes what you will find is bits and pieces of those comments can be taken to come up with a tremendous solution to some type of a problem.
Thank you.
And so what has happened? I'll tell you what, if you look at kids today, growing up, I spent a lot of time climbing trees, riding my bike, playing sports. And more kids are spending time indoors on electronics, and people have forgotten how to communicate with others. People have forgotten how to think for themselves. I think about what books do for the mind when you're a child, just reading books and going on adventures in your mind as you're reading through these books. And these are things which we are not doing today. We've replaced that with technology and quick fixes. And I think part of the reason we have this great divide and so much angst is because, again, people value those technologies, those things, those quick fixes. And if we want to get back to how things used to be, then we need to maybe set down the iPhone, stop looking at TikTok or whatever people are looking at, and spend more time out in the neighborhood talking to neighbors.
I couldn't agree more. That's how I grew up. I was in the cul-de-sac, playing sports, playing football, playing baseball, till the lights came on. And in today's world, I don't see as much. How do I say this without? I don't see the all-American family anymore. It's not the all-American family anymore. You don't have mom and dad together anymore. You don't have the kids that are staying together. You see people splitting up, divorced, like you said, unfaithful. You see people trying to destroy the American dream. Right? And that makes me sad because I see that in the media. There's that. I mean, when you do see United States flags being burnt in our nation's capital, that starts to make me question what is going on in this country and why do people have this much hate in their heart? I would love to have anyone, as a Democrat, a liberal, come on here and just have a conversation with me. And I would love to be able to have a fact checker, right? And have both sides. My facts are my facts, and I will back up my data with all facts. But every time I've offered someone to come on, as a Democrat, just to have a conversation, it gets hostile, and they spew things that have been spewed out to share a different narrative or context from the mainstream media, and it's never just an actual fact of the matter, or it's not legislation, it's not bills, it's always something that's just speculated. And I really wish that we can get back to that American dream, because that's honestly what I miss. I miss waking up and feeling patriotic, and honestly, that's what the assassination attempt did for me. It made me feel like, no, we need our country back. It made me realize we are literally a laughingstock. Our country is. Our military used to be the most powerful military in the world, right? And what would happen? Let me ask you this: what would happen if we went to war today?
Well, I'll tell you what would happen. I have 3 sons, and 2 of them would probably be drafted.
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, we're sending a lot of resource, spending a lot of money in Ukraine.
Can you as a politician, can you tell me why? Okay, why are we giving so much money to Ukraine when our own country is dying? Like literally just bleeding out, the economy, the everything, the inflation, and instead of helping out our own country, we're giving away more of money we don't even own, right? Because we're in debt so much, right? We're giving billions and billions of dollars away to this war. Why do you think that is? I'm just asking as an innocent bystander.
I don't know. I have more questions myself. I'm not on the inside to be able to answer that question. But I'll tell you that when Russia was lining up on the border of Ukraine, and it was clear that this wasn't an exercise. They were preparing to invade.
Yep.
The longer this war drags on, the more costly it gets in lives, in money, in resource, and it's tearing Ukraine apart. The UN, the United States, if they really wanted to make a stand, they could have kept Russia from invading, because they could have said, this is a top priority for us. Boom, we're sending tremendous resource there.
Yeah.
And the purpose is not to drag the war out. The purpose is to stop you.
Well, that's my question. If you're sending money and resources, that just keeps procrastinating the war, because you're buying more troops, more military,
It's a
more
long
army.
bleed.
Yes.
And so I don't know what the strategy is behind that.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I look at what's going on. I look at the war right now with Israel going after Hamas.
Yep.
And in October, hundreds of lives were murdered and over 200 hostages taken. And to me, Israel has every right to defend itself and every right to get those hostages back.
Absolutely.
And it was an unprovoked attack. Civilians were targeted. Americans were taken hostage.
Yep.
And so I'm looking at all of this, and part of me almost feels like we're in the late 1970s, early 1980s all over again, with Jimmy Carter as the president.
Oh, totally.
And Trump making very clear when he was speaking, when he was talking at the Republican National Convention, he's like, when I become president, we're going to be getting all Americans home. And very clear. These wars are not going to be happening. And I'm reminded that, when Trump became president, so many different groups said, oh, it's going to be World War III. He's got this finger on the button.
Thank you.
And we have seen lots of wars and chaos and people lose their lives over the course of the last really 3 years.
Thank you.
More so than what I remember in the last 10. And all of this is troubling. But again, how do we fix this? I don't point to government. I don't point to any single person running for office to be able to fix this. It really starts with me.
Yep.
It starts with the family.
Yep.
It starts with getting into alignment properly with my life. What is the purpose of life? People have to answer that question. If it's trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so many people make that the purpose of their life, and yet many of them are miserable because even with the greenhouse gases being reduced in California and all the steps we've taken, if you look globally how much greenhouse gases there are, there's so much more. So much more oil is being consumed today compared to 30 years ago globally. So I look at all of this, and truly to have peace in your heart and peace in your life, the Bible says that having that personal relationship with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is how you make that happen. Many people today are trying to fill their hearts and fill their lives with other things that don't matter, and that, I think, is driving a lot of the chaos.
That's very true. And I mean, I personally have never seen chaos like this. Like, not just in our administration, which is completely chaotic. It's been the worst 4 years ever. But the chaos in the streets, right? Like we were just talking about with Hamas and Israel and the wars that are going on. Why, in your opinion, I'm just curious because I don't understand it. I really don't. Why do you think there's so many violent protests with all that going on? Like, there's a lot of people, like, they just showed up at Mar-a-Lago, like 500. Where are they coming from? I mean, how are they, as far as I'm concerned, this is terrorist activity. And that's just my opinion. And when I see people burning the flag and doing what that, they had this one act where they were fake cutting heads off, like protesting that way. I mean, just violence. Why are we letting that happen? And how is it happening?
So I will say that Reagan had it right when he said that you have peace through strength. And one of the challenges that we have right now is our police departments who protect us here locally in the United States and in our cities, our counties, and our states have been demonized by elected officials and have been demonized generally, and that is a narrative that should never be in place.
I agree.
Our police officers should always be respected. The badge and the job that they do is an honorable one. There are police officers that do things wrong and they need to be held to account.
Correct.
But the positions that they have, the job that they are expected to do is a dangerous one, and people need to have an appreciation for who they are and the rule of law. So why are we seeing all this chaos around the world right now? It's because there's a vacuum when it comes to leadership and strength. And the United States has always done well the last 100 years, really filling that void. But as the United States chooses to back away, you have different dictators out there and different organizations, whether they be terrorist or not, that are willing to fill that void. Where a vacuum is created, it will always be filled by something. And in this case, the craziness around the world, the wars that are taking place, I believe are happening because the United States is signaling weakness. I'm one who believes that the U.S. should not be involved in every conflict, but the U.S. can stop a lot of conflicts simply by making a clear statement early on. And two, I'm a strong believer that if citizens of the United States,
yes, sir.
If any country wrongs a citizen, then the United States is going to come at you full force.
Yes.
And, Machiavelli used to say that it's better to be feared than loved. And looking at a world which pretty much has rejected God, you have to use force and might.
Yes.
And one of the things that the U.S. has done is it's bled itself of a lot of its strength. And it needs to reposition itself in the world, clearly stating that, look, we're going to take care of our own, absolutely. And two, if you mess with us, there's going to be a penalty. Many times there's empty sanctions that are offered up to other countries, and that is not enough. One of the things I loved when President Trump was in office, he hit China with like an $800 billion
the tariff.
The tariff.
Yeah.
And it shook them. I can remember reading articles in the Wall Street Journal about individuals saying that it would take China 20 years to recover from what Trump was doing. And he wasn't trying to penalize them. He was trying to create a level playing field.
Yes.
Because goods that come from the U.S., there are tariffs placed on it. So if you're going to place tariffs on us, we're going to place tariffs on you. And so it was all about rebalancing. Yep. So again, why is there this craziness? There is a void in leadership. Yep. There is a void in power. And either good people are going to step forward to try to fill that void, or bad people will. Simple as that.
Wow, that's deep right there. That's actually very, very, very true. And it's crazy to me too. You're right. Man, it does. It's scary to think about. But when he gets such a bad rap. I don't know how to say it, but he gets such a bad rap because of the media, how they put so much just effort on just blasting him and taking so many things out of context. And it frustrates me because I see the truth of it. From 2016 to 2020 were the best 4 years of my life, followed by the worst. That's just all that I know, right? I'm not into politics. This is all that I know, right? And then I looked at the legislation, the bills, the tariffs, the policies he actually did that no one talks about. Trump had some of the most gangster, speaking of Machiavelli, like campaigns I've ever seen, and no one wants to talk about the good he did for our country just to have it completely wiped away, which is kind of scary to think that it just all went so far gone and we're going to have another 4 years of that. That's not what I want, but I don't want to get too far into that. I want to go back to, I had a whole thing in my head as far as, back to where, we have so many protests kind of happening back here and forth. Your perspective, okay? obviously, our border czar that Biden deemed Kamala to be failed us and failed our borders, right? Immigration is an all-time high. Do you feel that that has also contributed to some of the crazy protests that are happening in our country with some of the illegal, immigrants that are coming in? Because let me share a quick story with you before you answer that. This goes down to a local level, and I want you to understand this. This is also what really triggered. This happened within the past 30 days. I was down here at a local store, local, Quickie Mart, grabbing some things. This dude comes out of nowhere. I'm not really paying attention, and he snatches this lady's purse, and obviously my instincts kicked in, and I chase him down, track him down, hold him to the ground. He was a younger, probably in his mid-20s, right? So it was very easy to kind of subdue, but he didn't speak any English. He started swinging at me. He punched me a couple times. I literally had cuts and bleeding. So I made sure that he was submitted appropriately, right? He's out. We're there. We're waiting. I'm waiting for the cops. I'm talking to everyone, because he stole the purse. The police officers come and they're like, "Hey, good job, man." They check the cameras, watch everything. Hey, you saved a purse for her, or whatever. She was grateful. They proceed to tell me, and this is facts. They said, well, there's been a very, very, very high intake of illegal immigrants here locally that are just being dropped off, and we're getting a huge increase of home invasions, burglaries, purse snatching, stuff just like this from people that aren't even documented citizens here in our own backyard. Have you heard or seen any of that as well? And do you think this is because of the lack of transparency and efforts from our administration with the borders?
So before Biden was sworn into office, I think he made a statement during the campaign when he and Trump were running against each other that, hey, you want to come to the United States? Come on. Encourage people to come, and people came by the trainload, and some people walked. So we have millions upon millions. I don't even know how many people have crossed the border in the last 4 years, but there are a lot of undocumented people here. And I'm one who believes that citizenship is something of value.
Yes,
and there are many people who wait years to get citizenship, and they do it the right way. And I do believe we need to reform our system when it comes to immigration.
Absolutely.
I want people in this country who, number one, believe in it, who believe in liberty and freedom, who want to work hard. And it doesn't matter if they're poor, if they're rich. I want people here who are willing to work hard and contribute. Life is all about.
What's the number one reason why everyone come to America? The American dream.
The American dream, yeah.
How ironic, right? Full circle. The American dream.
So one of the things, I don't know who's committing a lot of the crimes here because I don't have that data. But what I can tell you is this: when I look at Prop 47. AB 109, which dealt with prison realignment, but Prop 47, which made things which used to be felonies now misdemeanors, and made it difficult too for people, drug offenses, to send people to rehab. Now you just are issued a ticket if you're doing illegal drugs, and depending on how much drugs you have. It might be a cite and release type of thing. What we've created is a lot more addiction here, and a lot of people who are addicted are doing robberies and burglaries and committing crimes. And then two, on top of all of that, yes, there are people who are undocumented here that are also committing crimes too. What we need is great reform. And again, on the ballot is a reform to Prop 47, which is supported by law enforcement across the entire state. I'm supporting it as well. And so voters need to get involved. We need to have tougher laws, but we also need to be taking more accountability. And many of the laws that the legislature's been passing have been taking accountability away from criminals.
Totally.
And so more criminals will commit crimes
with no accountability.
No accountability, and they're let out and they commit more crimes. And you can't have that. Freedom requires accountability. And this is one of the freest countries around, but what's been happening is people are not being held accountable. We need more of that.
Man, that is the truth. That is something I'm very passionate about is taking accountability. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, right? And the only way to become a better man is to take accountability of that, right? And at the end of the day, that is what this country needs. We need accountability, not people to consistently say, oh, this is a bad person. This is an evil person. He's evil. He does this. He does that. Or this is bad for you. You have to do this. Or you need to do this. Or you're going to be let go from your job. You're going to be fired. You can't travel. That's what the past 4 years have felt like. If we've been told what to do, and we've been losing some of those freedoms. And as a proud American, I don't want to lose those freedoms. And that is my only reason of why I can't see why anyone would want to vote for anyone in this current administration. From this tumultuous 4 years that it's been, I just don't want any more of that. And at the end of the day, I feel like we are losing sight of the actual American dream and the things that we really value the most, which is faith, our religion, family, like having kids growing up. I mean, that's just the whole nature of being better is giving to your family, whatever that may be, right? And I'm excited for our future because I do think a lot of people are really starting to see, what is really going on, right, in our country and the power of courage. And I do think it takes a lot of people to step up and be able to eloquently and softly articulate perspective, right? And I think that's what we've lost in translation is people can't do that without being violent anymore or casting shade or shadows. I mean, elections, used to be like, oh, this is my opponent. Shake hands. Good to see you. I mean, we're so far beyond that in today's world, and I wish we could get back to that. And I really thought that when Trump got shot, that was going to change a lot for America. But I mean, 2 weeks here we are, and you've got the lies have already started, the agendas have already started, the manipulation, the gaslighting. I mean, I've never seen so many lies in my life, and it's just, and then it's the lie, and then it's the proof of the lie, and then it's the retraction. It's an ongoing thing, and I just wish that was not involved in politics. I wish we had more guys like yourself, man. I really do. I really wish we did. Real quick, as we kind of close up here, because I'll talk forever with you, and we have a limited time, and we'll have to do this again because there's a lot of still more questions I've got. But real quick though, just for our viewers out there, because there's a lot of people that are here locally, right? It's about community. It always has been. What is your message to convey to our viewers, to people out there that are in your corner or that might not be in your corner? Why should they get behind you and continue to rally behind your campaign, for supervisor here in 2024?
Well, I'll tell you that first, the position that I have as chairman of the Board of Supervisors this particular year is one that I don't take for granted. And I'm very thankful that the voters of Fresno County have supported me. I'm now going to be starting my third term in January. So if there's one message I could convey, it's this. If you don't like what is happening in the community, you have to get involved. Yes. You can't stand back. You have to get involved. And some people will watch the TV and get upset with the governor or get upset with the president. But I'll tell you that the most impactful thing that you can do to change what's happening around you is getting involved in your school board. And it might be attending meetings, it might be supporting issues that are important to you at the local level. It's attending council meetings, getting involved there. I have 47 different boards that I appoint people to. There's cemetery boards, believe it or not. And it sounds like a very boring job, but very necessary. And I'm looking to appoint people right now to the Dunlap Cemetery District. So if you have viewers in the Dunlap area and they want to get involved, that could be a way that they give back to their community. But really, this country is built upon volunteers. It's built upon entrepreneurs. And government cannot solve everything. I would like to see a new kind of welling up of individuals who want to get more involved in their community, getting involved, helping kids that maybe need an advocate. There's a nonprofit organization called CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate.
Oh, I love that.
These are individuals who advocate on behalf of foster kids who are involved in the court,
sign
system.
Me up.
And so there's so many things like that. Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, where you can read to kids. If you really want to change what's happening around you, you need to get involved. So that's my challenge to your viewers.
Man, I can't thank you enough. And that right there is a great point to leave on. And I really do care about our community. And I think we have one of the best communities. I really do. I love everything that we stand for, our beliefs, our morals, our values. Clovis and Fresno, man, I definitely commend the culture that we have here. But I will say there's a lot of things that are not in all of our control, right? And it does start, like my buddy here said, like we have to make sure that we are taking accountability in our families, with our youths, with our kids, with our spouses. We have to be better. We have to get involved and put ourselves out there. It's been scary to do that. It's been scary for me to even do this. In fact, I was going to post something about this earlier today, and I didn't do it because I got scared to post it. And I think that's kind of the nature of being a conservative these days is being scared. But I can tell you, courage is contagious, and I see a lot of people starting to step up and get involved in the communities and make a difference and be passionate about what they're doing for the community, because there is a greater purpose, and that is our youth. So, man, Nathan Magsig, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for being on this show. You've got so much knowledge, and I wish that we can keep going and go on for hours and hours. We'll definitely have to have you back. But man, this man needs to stay involved for not just our community, but in our politics, and anything that this man is doing. I'm fully behind him, and I'm excited to see what we can do with our educational systems, with all the policies that we're trying to put into place, and really make a difference for our kids, our youth, and our community. So thank you so much for watching The Passionate Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Kale. Have a good night.